Hello and welcome to Tarot Electric. I am Mary Schock. I have a tarot card for all of you listening today. I want to offer the guidance that you need to hear in this present moment across time and space for your highest good. And we got Temperance. I love Temperance. It's such a special card and a really beautiful card. So I'm excited to talk about it with you all. Temperance is all about healing, mind, body, and spirit. Temperance offers balance and sometimes comes in to say, calm down, cool it down, find the middle way. So temperance does not like extremes. It asks you to be centered within yourself and to find balance and harmony as much as is possible. Temperance is your guardian angel. It's your inner voice that tells you how to heal. Temperance loves the flow of water as a healing tool, and Temperance speaks to you when you are ready to listen. So I hope that you can all find the type of healing that you need, be it in your body, mind, or spirit, or maybe all of the above. And I hope when you think of Temperance, you feel your ancestors and your spiritual guides and guardians and your highest self just giving you the biggest group hug, because I feel like that's the energy of Temperance. So today's podcast is really lovely and I'm excited to bring it to you all. I got to interview and chat with my good friend Maxi, who is in the middle of hiking the Appalachian Trail. And I'm so proud of her and also so grateful that I got a chance to talk with her in the middle of such a huge journey and got to share in some of her wisdom. So we talk about trail life, but we really talk about the spirituality of this pilgrimage that she is on, and we talk about all of the internal questioning that comes with taking on a journey like hiking the Appalachian Trail. So I really, really hope that you all get a lot from this and do send Maxi some good vibes, because she's out there right now hiking that trail. If you want to follow Maxi on Instagram, I highly recommend it. You can see some very beautiful photos. Follow Maxi at Rebecca Max. That's REBECAHMAX. You can follow me on Instagram at Tarot Electric, and you can support this show, Be More Tarot Club, and all of my work in tarot and the mystical arts by becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. That is patreon.com/Tarot Electric. You can spell Patreon patreon.com/Tarot Electric. And I have some very sweet rewards that I'm excited to be producing for you all. So for supporting me just $1 a month, or you could contribute more, but the baseline is just $1. I'm doing monthly tarot scopes, and they're going to be detailed. If you want, you can become a patron right now, and you'll have access to special tarot scopes that I did just for the eclipse. So offering guidance for each sign of the zodiac for what they can expect with the most recent eclipse. And very soon I'll be putting out the September tarot scopes. That's been very fun for me. I'm excited to continue creating those, and you can get access to them for just $1 a month, and it would be a huge help to me. I also am producing personal tarot readings. That's for $25 a month, and you can learn more about that on the page. So if you appreciate the work that I'm doing and would like and are able to support me in this work, becoming a patron on Patreon would be so helpful and I would be so grateful. That's about it. Find Tarot Electric on iTunes. You can subscribe, rate, and review. And, many blessings. I just appreciate you all. Please enjoy this show. Okay, peace and love. How do you feel?
Good.
Maxi, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Mary.
Being so open and vulnerable to share what you've been up to.
Yeah, that's good. It's good for me. It's good for you.
It's good for us all.
Yes.
So I thought that this would be fun to have you share a little bit of your story and your wisdom. Because I feel like you're always a person that does have a lot of knowledge to share, and I was feeling like you must especially have some good knowledge to share because you're in the middle of hiking the Appalachian Trail.
Well, thank you. I think you have a lot of great knowledge as well and wisdom, and I'm in the process of gaining more, literally each and every day right now on the trail. Yeah.
So maybe we can just tell all of our friends listening kind of where we are and like how we got together right now in the midst of this epic journey for you.
Okay. Yeah. So I've been on the trail now for about 7 weeks, maybe a little bit more. And I'm in my 6th state. So I didn't start at the beginning. I started basically at the bottom of New Jersey. And we were texting or something like that. And I knew your mom lived in New Hampshire here. And I got to New Hampshire and was like, hey, Mary, what's up? But I thought you'd be like hours away. But you were actually like half an hour away.
The closest. You were the closest to me here at my mom's house than like anything else cool in New Hampshire, because you were just half an hour away. Like everything is so far.
So
but
clearly,
you were so close.
It was meant to be.
Meant to be.
Yeah, 100%.
So now you've been able to take a mini break.
A vacay.
Avoid maybe some storms in the mountains.
Yeah, taking a little break to rest my knee joints and my feet, and also just to hang out with Mary because it's nice to hang out with her wherever we are, whenever we are. Yeah.
Oh, well, it has really, really been my pleasure to have you here. It's made it very fun for me. So I'm very grateful that you came to visit.
Thank you.
And let's give a shout out to Buddy also, trusty
Buddy's
companion.
Here, the Black Lab. He has been my soul friend on this journey, who I talk to more than any human I encounter. And he's been a very good protector and just entertainer, and he's a good boy overall. Yeah.
I love how you said that he's always happy.
Yeah, he's permanently happy. I don't know if that's just like, not all dogs are like that, but it can be like raining and I'll be crying and hiking and he'll be like wagging his tail and being like, this is the best thing ever. Or hiking uphill or just like tired and he's still happy. And that's been a big spiritual booster for me, because part of why I brought him on this wasn't just for protection and to have someone, but because he's so happy, his personality, it really helps me balance my mood and just be like, all right, let me just check myself here.
That sounds really useful on the trail and basically anywhere in life. I've heard that spiritually about when I forget where I heard it, but we were kind of comparing the spirituality of like cats and dogs, and they said that cats have this ability to like soak up all our psychic energies that are overwhelming for us. So like if we need to kind of get rid of some stuff, a cat's like general aura is able to absorb these energies that might be too much for a human. So the cats can take away like the negative stuff and just dissolve it into neutral. But the dogs are this happiness radiating energy that can make you feel bliss, and that's like a different
a different vibe. Like
It
the dogs will
is.
charge you up with
Yeah.
their good energy.
Like I keep saying literally, but
It's okay.
I LOL like with Buddy. He does like the stupidest funny things that like something like your friend would say out loud that makes you laugh. Like Buddy will like charge into a pond and like look completely confused or something, and it's so refreshing. It's like simple laughter, and that's so rare, I feel like, in today's world.
True.
So I really value him, especially when he's just like, even when he's so bad, sometimes he's like really naughty. But he brings joy to other people on the trail all the time, to random people who I've never met. He makes them happy, and that's really cool.
Do you feel like you had an intention when you set out to hike the AT?
I wanted to be isolated. I wanted to be in nature, and I wanted to simplify my life, and I wanted the time to think. Like back home in Baltimore, I think everyone's in their head all the time, and I'm definitely like susceptible to that. So being on the trail, I wanted the time to be in my head, but to be comfortable, like almost to like lay out all my thoughts on this like huge canvas or whiteboard, and to let them progress as I was hiking. Sort of like figure out my basic, what am I doing, where am I going kind of questions. Yeah, where am I at right now?
Those are like the big questions.
Yeah, and they're easy to ignore when we're distracted a lot in cities, and they're easy to ignore when we're just like consumed by so much. So I needed the space, and I guess like to sum it all up, healing. Just healing is like the journey, the focus.
Do you feel like this experience has been able to kind of facilitate that kind of healing and answer some of those questions? Does it bring up other questions?
It definitely brings up more questions
than answers.
Yeah, it's like questions become the answers, if that makes any kind of sense.
So zen.
Yeah, it's like very Buddhist.
Yeah.
And like as I'm hiking, I'm gaining clarity more than anything. Like I'll gain a peace, and sometimes that happens in the form of like an aha moment, and sometimes it happens through conversation with somebody, and they're like, oh yeah, I've been living by myself for the last 5 years, and it's been really great. And I'm like taking notes in my head, being like, living by myself. I've heard that a few times before. Maybe that's a cue. And I was sort of between like, oh, do I want to go travel for the next year or two, or do I want to get back to Baltimore, back to my roots, and like keep sowing seeds in my ecology and like building what I've started. So I've gained more clarity towards that, and I'm leaning towards that. And I've also had the opportunity to like have service on my phone, to talk to good friends, to like get tarot readings from Mary on the way.
Anytime.
Yeah, about like, okay, I've been like stuck on this question. I'm having dreams about this. Like, help me figure it out. And that's sort of been guiding me as well.
Have your dreams been vivid or meaningful? Like, what's your sleep like?
So it's funny because I go to bed at 7:00. Like I'm like in the senior citizen crowd right now. Just like go to bed at 7:30, wake up at 5:30.
Yeah, grandma style.
Yeah, and it feels good. Like I'm genuinely tired, like physically and mentally at that point. And my dreams, like I haven't had. There's maybe one or two specific dreams that I've like written down, but more than anything, I've been visited by my grandparents on multiple occasions. My grandparents who have passed years ago. And I really feel like that's like a form of protection, and just like they were travelers, they were immigrants, they were just like representative of the world, which is an amazing card. You could talk about that, Mary. But yeah, that's been in my dream realm, and my sleep has been like, it's been really light sleep, which is different than like, it's not comfortable, at least for me, like sleeping outside in the woods. It's been a process of adapting. It's not just like, oh, I sleep like a baby. It's like there's all these noises. It's kind of scary. Yeah. It's super dark, and in some ways it's really good, and I feel like my like primal self like that blueprint has kind of like been able to come out a little bit.
You feel like connected to the earth and like the earth cycles in that way? Because when you wake up with the sun, it's like there's something really...
The birds wake you up.
Oh my gosh.
And that's nice. Like that feels, it takes a while to adjust to, but then it just feels like very much right.
It's really beautiful that your grandparents are visiting you. That's really meaningful.
I feel lucky. Yeah, I feel really lucky.
They must be proud of you.
I think so. Like, I'm named after my grandpa. And I think it's like a way to connect to them because I didn't get to spend enough time with them in this lifetime here on Earth. And so I've been talking to my mom too and being like, your parents, I keep seeing your parents.
What does she say?
It's such a joy for her.
Oh,
like,
that's so beautiful.
It's just like I had a dream about my grandma singing karaoke and it was like amazing, and it was so
what
like...
song did she sing?
I don't know. It was like in another language.
Okay, cool.
Or something. But yeah, just being able to like make my mom feel happy because of that connection. She's like, yes, they're definitely with you. There was like no doubt in her mind. So that was cool.
So it also must be really interesting for you to do this journey as you are a permaculturalist, master gardener.
Yeah, the plants have been the teachers.
Right.
I so enjoy the ecology. I'm a huge believer in spiritual ecology and just like all of the lessons from nature. And I was talking to Mary the other day about how like I do landscaping in the city, and everybody has this super idealistic perspective of what nature is supposed to look like. And it's supposed to be clean, and it's supposed to be neat, and it's supposed to not have any kind of dead spots on it, and it's supposed to be round and perfect. And in the woods, it's just like you take a plant and you single it out, and it's covered in brown spots, and there's bugs that have been eating it, and there's branches that have fallen off, and it's like leaning over, and it's in this mass of like thousands of plants that are just in that same shape. And you step back and like from a whole perspective, they're like beautiful, and like there's nothing imperfect about that ecology. And it's interesting how we crave this perfect plant in our own world, but in nature, it's all of the imperfections that make it perfect. And that's been like really sort of like heartwarming for me, just to be like, oh yeah, it's natural to be imperfect. That's what nature is. Instead of like the mentality I have in the city where I'm like, I have to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect. So yeah, I'm thankful to nature because of that.
That sounds like something that I could like meditate on and take in as like in my relationship with my body, in my relationship with my work.
Yeah.
And those two main things, but probably in a lot of other areas too.
And it's always
like
changing. Like that's how it looks this moment. But like at winter, it's going to be all dead. And then in the spring, it's going to have all this new energy. And like that ties to all of the like cycles that we see seasonally, but also like especially as women with our bodies each month, lunar cycles, with this past eclipse that happened yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's like it's always changing, and we have this idea that things are permanent and that it's always going to be still, but like it's the impermanence and the change that we find the most growth in, good or bad. That's part of why I wanted to be in the woods too, because it's just like a constant reminder. It's like look around. Sometimes the ecology is like really barren. Sometimes it's really diverse. Sometimes it's like wet and marshy, and sometimes it's dry and cool. And we have all of those ecologies in us, and it's like all the emotions in us, and we don't always have control of which one we're standing in.
Kind of like looking at the trail and the nature can be this mirror to our own body, right? Yeah. And then our own like spiritual world. It's all like as above, so below.
Very much true.
Can you give like a brief definition of permaculture, just in case
Sure.
folks want to know your
Personal definition.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think everyone who's a permaculturist has a different definition, but to me, I just break it down to the most simple definition: permanent culture. And it can apply in a societal way, an emotional way, physical way, but whatever kind of design that applies that uses permanence and sustainability at the center. So if that's like applying to our societies or to our gardens, it's like the smallest impact to get the greatest change and greatest results. Yeah, basically.
Like earth friendly, working with cycles,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
with like the natural state. So like in ecology, does that come in with a lot of like working with native plants or like
native plants and also biomimicry? Like,
what exactly is that?
So it's copying biology, copying nature, and being like, all right, nature already invented this amazing system to get water down this hill. It's called gravity. And like, why don't we copy that and use those methods and those practices in our design instead of trying to work against it? So it's tons of observation, lots and lots of observation, and like taking the ego out of it, being like, let's just look and see what nature's doing.
So I can see why committing to being in nature for such a long period of time, like when you take on hiking the Appalachian Trail, it probably like teaches you so much.
Yeah.
Because you have all that time to observe, right?
Yeah, and like permaculture has been a passion of mine for years, but I think that with any passion, you sort of ebb and flow in and out of it sometimes.
Yes.
And whether it's like tarot or art or music, you go through like spells where it's not like you're not as interested, but it's not like calling to you in the same way.
It's very relatable.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to take this time and take this whole year actually to revision my personal company and to get re-inspired by nature for when I get home and be able to apply it in people's yards and gardens and workshops and things like that.
So kind of make Gratitude Garden Company, that's your company, by the way, we should say. Thanks. Just make it like the closest to your truth and your present.
It's evolving and growing and like
right. Just like you.
Thank you. But yeah, so like as you continue to work on a project for a long time, it's like a tree that's growing and you're just like pruning the branches that are crossing others, or like if there's too many, it's like too many ideas and you're sort of simplifying. That's kind of where I'm at in my process right now.
Do you feel like there are pieces of your journey right now that you can see how you're going to apply them when you get back home, when you're working with plants there? Or you're just going to take it all?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, there's so many landscaping businesses, and I'm competing with, like, lots of men, lots of different perspectives. But I think I want to sort of lead by example and just start gardening in a way that reaches people emotionally. I want to like focus more on putting plants in the ground that represent like people's maybe deceased ones or like anniversaries or loved ones, and just connecting people more with it, because it's hard in the city to really feel the nature. You can go to a park, but there's always people around. You're never really like so alone. So I really like the idea of sanctuaries and sacred spaces in the city and catering that to what people like. So if they want like straight up sunflowers and that makes them happy, like let that be their thing.
I love the idea of bringing spirit work into a full garden. That would be so powerful. I mean, I know some witches you can work with. Like, I know you can do it all by yourself, but when you want to broaden that out to the community, because God, that could be so powerful.
I think so. I mean, I feel like plants are just like this beautiful form of art that we neglect to recognize in cities a lot. There's just like really linear design, really masculine design. No offense to men in any way, but there's a whole creative element to be like represented. And sometimes people look at it as like chaotic, but that chaos is really just like diversity, and it forces us to teach people about what's actually going on instead of like looking at something as a big bundle of plants or weeds or whatever.
Yeah, the weed thing is something that bums me out because some of my favorite plants are weeds.
Yeah.
Mugwort, obviously.
Dandelions, plantain.
Yeah, so useful to me.
Totally.
All three of those.
Yeah, so useful. And we have like friends in the city who teach about using weeds, and there's some resources for that now, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's how I have that knowledge. From learning from you and everyone else who's doing that kind of work.
Yeah.
It's pretty radical. What are some of your fave plants you've seen on the trail?
Good question. So I've seen like a lot of yarrow and Queen Anne's lace, and I think I was telling you the other day, like I love the goldenrod growing with the Queen Anne's lace because it sort of looked like the stars and the moon, like just like a splatter of yellow and the big circle of white. And I've also loved a lot of trees that I've seen, and I'm not as good at tree identification, but there's just some like gorgeous oaks, like huge fat oaks that are like probably 200 years old, and that's really neat.
That's really neat.
Yeah, I've seen tons of plants that I don't know. I've seen at least 20 different kinds of ferns. Like the Blue Ridge Mountains, the Appalachian Trail, it's like the most diverse ecology in the whole entire US, I think, and like comparing to certain parts of the world, it's like the most biodiverse species wise. So I feel lucky just to be like exploring it, and I probably know like 1/20th of the plants there, which is like a good amount because there's so many different types of plants.
When you shared that you see all the funky trees, I think I shared this with you, but it reminds me of the hangman in the summer tarot deck, because that image is just a tree and you can see the roots growing down and up. And then it also makes me think of the tarot reading that we just did for you.
Yeah.
And the hangman in that reading. And I wonder how much this trip for you is about like that sacrifice and letting go, which is everything the hangman talks about.
Yeah, that's definitely like applying so much, because I feel like I'm carrying this backpack. I just wrote an article to my friend Zine about like how that's my home right now. That's it.
Do you feel like a turtle?
I do.
A turtle on Turtle Island?
I do feel like a turtle. And like I love turtles. And my backpack's even green. But it's vulnerable in the sense that like all you have is what you have on your back. And you're simplifying down to like 2 pairs of clothes, a tent, a sleeping bag. It's pretty minimal. Like I have like 6 Band-Aids.
Oh my god.
And because of that, you're like stripping away a lot, and you're hiking this trail, and like sometimes you're crossing roads, but sometimes you don't cross a road for a few days, and it's vulnerable. And I think that's what creates space for realizations to come in. Sort of like the hangman with like the globe around his head or her head, depending on what deck you have. But yeah, it's like allowing room for things to come into you because you've taken so much away, that you've sort of like shed enough skin that you're not fully protected, you're vulnerable, like you're letting things through your own skin, your armor. Yeah, I like the hangman.
That sounds like hard work to do, but really valuable. I'm proud of you for doing it.
Thank you. I think I was craving it. And I think like there's periods in my life where I've been like, okay, I know what I'm doing. Like I don't need more information right now, and like beautiful if it comes. But I was definitely on this journey purposefully being like, this is a journey, and like there's going to be a lot of vulnerability and like a lot of weak moments, but I want to put myself out there, not like socially necessarily, but like I want to put myself in this place where I don't know everything, and I don't need to know everything, and I have to build trust. Trust with myself, trust with this trail, trust with time, and that's not always been easy for me personally. Trust is kind of hard.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like that's a big difference between like city life and going on like a pilgrimage like you are on. So the difference between not only city life but like your city, so like your home and your community, and even though there are a lot of good things about being in a space like that, it can also be a place that doesn't allow for those revelations. But when you take yourself out of that and take away everything that kind of keeps you safe, that's the vulnerable piece that allows for those like big ideas and like moments of truth, right?
Yeah, I think it's like perspective. Like sometimes you have to travel a few miles and get up on a hill to see what life was like down there. And Mary and I were both discussing how like it feels good to be out of Baltimore right now. Like we both does. Because we both love Baltimore, it's like a relationship or something.
Yeah.
Like it requires space. Like any good relationship requires space.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where I'm at and where we're both at right now.
To gain that perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I just feel lucky to be able to escape. And then I'll be excited to go back.
Perfect. Yeah, so much.
I hope that you feel excited to go back when it's that time.
That's the plan.
Right. Yeah. Well, you still have a ways to go.
Yeah, I'm not in a huge rush to go back, but I'm like inviting the idea as I go.
Do you feel like another part of this journey for you has been like, I want to say overcoming fear, but I feel like that's not even right. Maybe even just like walking with fear?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you want to talk about that?
Okay, so I'm sitting down with my demons for tea. That's the theme.
Tea with the devil.
Yeah, basically. And that's been the theme. And like, shout out to therapy. My therapist has been like really guiding me with fear. Like I told Mary, I ran into bears like early on in my trip, and bears are scary. I don't care who you are. And like, I really respect bears, but 10 yards from a bear doesn't feel good. Doesn't feel like good in my primal sense of being.
Scary. I can't imagine.
Just scary.
I already said I would pee my pants.
Yeah.
So scary. You ran into a mama bear and cubs, right?
Yeah.
So scary.
And I have Buddy with me, so that makes situations like that twice as tricky.
This young dog.
Yeah. So fear's been a huge theme. Fear of just like dealing with anxiety, dealing with paranoia. All of that has been present in my journey so far, and it's been training my brain to be like, okay, yes, fear, yes, terror, yes, anxiety, yes, feeling really scared, and just training my brain being like, yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. And like, it feels so fake, but now like a month after that event happened, I'm not as scared. And it's this idea of like inviting your demons to tea and being able to sit down with them. And I realized at first, like, it wasn't easy to sit down with them. And I called on my mom, and I called on Mary for a tarot reading, and I called on my sister. And like, with the support of this group of people who I really love and appreciate, I've been able to move forward. And I'm like happy to admit that. It doesn't make me weaker in any way. Yeah, fear. Everyone should have a little bit of it.
Fear, try it.
Try it.
But you're still doing it, which
Yeah.
that is just got to be the most impressive thing. Because
Well, thanks.
I don't know if I could have kept going. So you're pretty brave.
I take breaks, and that's helpful. Yeah.
So I'm hearing that like maybe the key to, or like some important things to like, you know, having a healthy relationship with our own fears and anxieties, it sounds like for you is like community.
Mm-hmm.
So reaching out to family,
Yeah, friends,
and like talking out and getting that community, and then also talk therapy,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is amazing.
Yeah.
Like this just shows you can like do your most wild adventures, like follow your spiritual bliss, and continue to have a healthy relationship with talk therapy, because I've had great success with talk therapy before. And I think sometimes people think like, oh, if I'm on a spiritual path or an adventurous path, like I don't really have time for like honoring my mental health in that way, where like spirituality will like supplement it, but it's like they work together, right?
Yeah, for sure. And they work together and they pattern each other.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think that's beautiful that you're still doing that. I'm so happy for you that that's available. I mean, technology, amazing. And then what was the other thing that helped too?
I guess gratitude.
Yeah,
which is ironic. Gratitude. That's the attitude. That's like, I named my business after, because I was like, if I can stay thankful, then I can stay woke.
Gratitude Garden Company. Staying woke.
And it's just like, if you can be thankful for the worst situations, it means that you are assuming that you will learn something from it instead of letting that situation have power over you. And I think that's been like so helpful. Like, even with that bear thing, I was like totally scared and was like, I don't know if I can get back on the trail, and it took me like 3 or 4 days to get back to it. But just being able to be like, thank you, bears, to say that like sentence out loud, that was like, all right, I know I'm going to learn something from this. I don't know when it's going to come or in what form, but if I can trust that it will, I can keep going.
Imagine being able to do that, like, because even though it sounds really hard to do that with the bears, of course, but then I think about, well, what's my life? Because I'm not hiking the Appalachian Trail. But what if I was able to look back and say, like, thank you to the people that hurt me, you know, like, thank you to the people that abused me, and be like, oh, that's so, it's a really big, it's a big deal, basically, what you're doing. It's not easy, but you can see that it's worthwhile.
Yeah, download some podcasts like this one, and educate yourself on that, because it's like the quicker you can be to forgive and to be thankful, the lighter your load is. And I've learned that over time, and it's never easy every single time. Yeah.
It also sounds like the other thing that helps is taking rest. So self-care, right?
Self-care is huge.
Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah, a lot of hikers don't take any breaks, and I'm like, that's amazing. And at first I was sort of like, what's wrong with me that I feel like I need to rest more and like I can't go as fast as other people. And now, being like 7 weeks in, I'm like, it's great taking a break. This is part of what it's about. Like, being able to spend 2 or 3 days with Mary here has been like not just like fun and great, but like sort of necessary to like my own journey, my own trip. Sorry, podcast.
No worries. Well, I have a question for you.
Okay.
If anyone out there is listening and they're feeling like, hey, I want this kind of healing, intense, challenging experience that you're having, would you have any advice to give potential hikers?
Yeah, I would. Like, so I wouldn't define myself as even a hiker. Like, there's definitely a culture out there on the trail that's centered around like somewhat competitiveness, about fitness, and that's all really great. But one thing I keep hearing over and over is hike your own hike. And I love walking, and hiking is great too. But my main agenda is healing, like I sort of said earlier. So if someone came up to me and was like, whoa, that's great, I want to heal, I want to do whatever, should I do what you're doing? I'd be like, you should try it. You should try it. You should do it your own way. You should carry as much as you want, and you should go slow. And that's the main thing. And go slow. Slow and steady is sort of the theme. And that also applies to mental stuff too, mental health. Don't expect to make realizations right in the beginning. It's taking time. And that's what I didn't realize at first, and I'm realizing halfway through now, is slow and steady is the way to expect, and the way to sort of feel ready to take on whatever comes your way, spiritually, psychically, emotionally. Yeah.
That's very wise.
Thank you.
And more nice turtle vibes too, right?
Mhm.
Turtle medicine all the way, huh? Slow and steady.
I think of turtles a lot on the trail.
Have you seen any?
I saw one in the water. In a
Nice.
pond. Yeah.
And then, like, kind of part 2 of that question is, what if someone's out there thinking, is there any way that they might kind of bring this kind of experience into maybe their everyday life in the city, you know? Or how could someone get in touch with this kind of deep healing that nature can provide, and also the challenges that come with it? But, like, how can someone get in touch with that if they're in the city?
Okay, so I would say, like, there's two like practices within this whole journey I'm on that I could pull out and kind of apply at home. And one would be straight up meditation. If that calls you, which it has to me and Mary, like, off and on. It's so hard to do. It's like as hard as hiking up hills in terms of mental strength. And that really would build your mental strength, I think. Bring you peace of mind and also probably answer questions for you. The second would be putting on headphones and just walking around and kind of walking aimlessly almost, or like, you know, deciding like this Saturday I'm going to take 4 hours and I'm going to try to walk 7 or 8 miles around the city, or around or go to a park or whatever you need to go, and just keep walking and let thoughts come in your head and just like sort of treat them as you go. Yeah, so those are sort of 2 practices I'll do when I get home to sort of continue soul searching and being able to process thoughts.
Like, walk it out.
Walk it out.
A lot of the things that you share with me about some of your journey does remind me of feelings that I had during Vipassana meditation.
Yeah, talk more about that.
10-day silent retreat.
So hard.
Course. Yeah, it was so hard. I mean, obviously, like, so different. Hard on your body, though. And I know that this trail is hard on your body.
Sure.
And I mean, 10 days is only 10 days, but
no, it's intense.
It is hard on your body to sit for that long, and you do come up against this wall of when your body hurts and then your mind is ready to give in.
Yeah. It's suffering.
But then you overcome it. Yeah, it's suffering. And that's a hangman vibe of a sacrifice and letting go, because the sacrifice that you make is the suffering that you're doing.
Yeah. And once again, it's like, yes, suffering. Hello, suffering. Thank you, suffering.
Thank you, suffering.
And then
that's so Buddha.
You tell yourself that it's temporary, and it is temporary, and then you get through it, and that's the strength.
That's the strength. And my uncle did say earlier when I was visiting, he said, you know, fatigue will make cowards of us all. And that's a quote, and I don't know what it's from.
It's a good one.
But it's so true, right?
Yeah.
Like, if your body's tired, it will make you ready to give up and give in. But we do have the ability to, like, kind of jump over that. And I feel like that's what you've been able to kind of tap into.
Yeah, you can sort of recharge yourself mentally if you can notice the patterns. Like, it's going to be natural that you want to stop. Mm-hmm. Your body's like, I'm tired, stop. And you're going to fight that, and that's going to feel unnatural for a while. And there's going to be times where your body's like, stop, and you should stop. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just being really attentive and knowing the difference. But a lot of times you can be able to support your mind and be like, all right, we're just going to go half a mile more. We're just going to go a quarter mile more. We're just going to go an eighth of a mile more, and just keep on going, and then watch how your mind changes as it overcomes, and it changes your chemistry and supports you in moving forward.
Strength in opposition.
Yeah.
And it makes it easier the next time. Like, you just push that boundary a little bit farther, and it's that mental boundary that gets us really stuck, right?
Totally.
And I definitely, when you talk about, like, peeling away the layers, like, that's what meditation felt like. And it just felt like super hard. And the first 3 days, just getting to a place of, like, semi-calm mind and just tearing away the layers until you can get to a place where you can have the realizations. But it takes a lot of work to even get to that place.
Mm-hmm.
But when whenever you set off on a journey, be it a literal path in the woods or
a mental journey,
right, you can get to this place that is at its core similar.
Yeah, very true. And like, you probably experience suffering regardless, and suffering sounds horrible and it can feel horrible, but in retrospect it's not always as horrible as you think.
And it is inevitable, right? It's a truth of this life in some ways. And I feel like a lot of what you've shared too also reminds me of the Wheel of Fortune card in tarot.
Yeah.
In terms of living with the cycle and the changes of our own selves and the nature of our lives and of the world. So this idea of like, sometimes we're suffering, but it will always change and we'll always swing around to where we're not suffering anymore.
Yeah.
And then we'll always swing back around to be suffering again. And it's like, you see that in the cycles of nature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally, 100%. And like, I think as humans, we just easily forget, and we like when we experience such joy or something happy, we want more of it instantly, and we want more, and it's harder and harder for us to accept that there's not always going to be times that are like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just so true what you're sharing, and it reminds me of all the things I learned in Vipassana and is making me really want to up my meditation game.
Yeah, it's good for winter. If you want, you have a lot of time and you're stuck inside, it's probably not a bad idea to introduce meditation into your life.
Try meditation.
Even 5 minutes a day.
Yeah.
I'm telling this to myself for accountability.
Right. Well, we did a very short meditation today that did make me feel very good. Mm-hmm. So even a tiny bit can, even a 2-3 minute can make you feel good.
Sure.
I'm wondering if you could share the message of the hummingbird. If you feel called. I just feel like it's so beautiful.
So I'm wearing these earrings, and I got Mary a pair, but then her ears were closed up.
Sorry, they're false. They're honestly like tricky because they look like they're pierced, but it's not true. I'm going to use them for magic.
Good. But I have hummingbird earrings on, and I was telling Mary about the story that's been like, I sort of recalled it like a month ago on the trail, and it's something I've brought up a lot of different times, and I got it from this documentary called Dirt. It's literally about dirt, and it's a beautiful documentary all about soil. But there's this woman, Wangari Maathai, who shares this story about the hummingbird, and I'll do my best, but if you want to listen to it better, go on YouTube. So basically, there's this huge forest fire, and the whole entire forest is on fire. Everything's going up in flames, huge flames, just a roaring fire. And all of the animals come out of the forest, and they're all standing sort of on the edge by the water, and they're just watching their home burn down. And all of a sudden, they see this little hummingbird that's going to the water, to the pond, picking up one drop of water and flying to the forest fire and putting it on the forest fire. And there's all these huge animals like the lions and the elephants and the giraffe, and they're laughing at the hummingbird going, "What are you doing? You're so small. You're not doing anything. You're not making a difference at all." And the hummingbird doesn't really stop at first, and then pauses right in midair and turns to them and just says, "I'm doing the best I can." And that story has touched me so much. It's like simple folktale, and I tell myself that all the time when I'm feeling horrible, when I'm feeling good, when I'm suffering, when I'm achieving. I'm doing the best I can. That's basically the story of the hummingbird. It's really beautiful.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Mary. This is wonderful in all the ways, and I can't wait to be friends with you forever.
Forever. Well, I can't wait to have you maybe on the podcast again once you've completed this journey and can share with us how the rest of it go. But everyone out there listening can send Maxi some good vibes and some good energy.
Thank you.
As you're traveling, I hope you feel it. I know that I'll be sending you good vibes. Do you want to tell anyone to follow you on Instagram or like a Facebook page or anything?
So on Instagram, I'm at Rebecca Max, REBECAHMAX, and I'm kind of taking a Facebook break. But
Instagram's where it's at.
Yeah, Instagram's where it's at. Hit me up.
Amazing. Just thank you times 1,000.
Thank you times 1,000.
I love you.
Love you too.
Talk to you soon.
Sounds great.
Okay, bye.
Bye.